If you supported Donald Trump because you believed the justice system was being weaponized against him, you should be even more concerned right now. Because what we're watching today looks like the same thing, even worse. This time, he's the one in power. And this is after whatever happened to him happened to him. This video is not about whether you like Trump. It's about whether you think he is treating his opponents fairly or whether he was treated fairly, frankly. It's not even about whether Jerome Powell is right or wrong. It's about something much bigger. Do we believe in a consistent legal system or a political one? Both of which result in very different realities. Because if your answer changes depending on who's being targeted, it's not the principle, it's preference. Let me be clear about my position before we go any further. I am against the weaponization of the justice system. Period. Full stop. I was against it when it was targeted against Trump, and I'm still against it. When it appears to be targeting opponents, it's the essence of what America should not be. My standard doesn't change based on who's in power, who's in the crosshairs. And if yours does, you're the problem. Let's talk about the pattern. And this isn't about one case. It's about a mindset. For years, 10 years at the very least, Trump used language like lock her up, lock them up. He's publicly labeled political opponents as criminals. He threatened to hire a special prosecutor to put Hillary Clinton behind bars for some email scandal. All right. She did wrong things. He framed critics not just as wrong, but illegitimate. And it matters. The illegitimate people could go back to the ridiculous voter fraud of 2020 that he claims. But because rhetoric becomes expectation, and expectation becomes action. That's the ultimate lesson that we take out of the rhetoric here, especially when it comes from the President of the United States. Tell me I'm wrong. Take James Comey, former FBI director, fired while overseeing an investigation into Trump. Since then, he's been repeatedly attacked, publicly discredited, and portrayed as corrupt. Now, whether you think Comey was right or wrong is irrelevant. The point is framing. Political disagreement becomes criminal suspicion. And what, his indictment came down 2-3 weeks before the statute of limitations were going to lapse? And the way it was brought down? Ridiculous. They went through Olympic-level gymnastics, legal gymnastics to make that happen. Take Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General. She ran her campaign on going after Trump. Get Trump. Credit to Alan Dershowitz for bringing that to my forefront. That was her campaign slogan. And let's be honest, there are real arguments that she pushed legal boundaries in pursuing him. That's a legitimate critique. This is the key. You don't correct that by doing the same thing in the other direction. You don't fix lawfare with more lawfare. This extends beyond just the prosecutors. We see a broader pattern of treating critics, media figures, political opponents, and other dissidents as just enemies to be dealt with and not debated. Again and again, it's not illegal. But that creates a mindset. And that brings us to what is happening right now. Before I do that, I want to introduce myself to you as the guy who's not afraid to be nuanced, a guy who's not afraid to take something from the right, something from the left, give them credit where credit is due. Please hit the subscribe button below if you like what you're hearing so far. If not, give me a chance to finish. And if you do, a subscription to my newsletter would also be fantastic, where you could get my direct insights to your inbox. Thank you so much for affording me that attention. Back to the video. Theory becomes reality in the Powell case. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell. Here's what we actually know based on the reporting. There is no public indictment against Powell at the moment. There is no filed criminal charges. What we have is a criminal investigation and a grand jury subpoena tied to statements he made to Congress regarding Federal Reserve renovations. That's the theory. Potential false statements regarding Fed Reserve renovations. That's it. This is not the Don Lemon thing all over again, where he's press guy covering what happened in a church, but got indicted for blocking entry or something like that for people to practice their religion. I don't know what the hell they indicted him for. Now, where it gets important, a federal judge reviewed the subpoenas and blocked them, not once, twice. And the Department of Justice attempted to move forward, and the judges stood by their decision to quash them. Let that sink in. This is not a close call, and this is not a gray area. This is a court looking at what the government is doing and saying, no. Now I want to be precise. That does not automatically mean Powell did anything wrong. It doesn't automatically mean that there should never be an investigation. What it does mean is the way it's being done is not holding up. And that matters more than just the outcome, because process is what protects everybody, not just the people you agree with. One day or another, you're going to need those protections. You, a loved one, somebody that you care about, somebody that you agree with. When legal theory is thin and the target is political, it's not justice. It's pressure. And these are the United freaking States of America. This is the part where people struggle. You can believe Letitia James went too far. I do. And you could still believe that this is going too far. Indicting her for mortgage fraud because of a property she didn't collect rent on, but she claimed as a primary residence, so she might have not been able to run for New York AG. You can believe that Trump was treated unfairly and still believe that this is unfair. But the standard is not, do I like the person being targeted? The standard is, would I accept it if it were used against somebody I support? I find it hard to believe that as an American, I'm actually saying this in a video. And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't accept it now. Let's bring in another layer. I referenced Alan Dershowitz, longtime defender of civil liberties, very vocal about what he calls lawfare when it comes to Trump. And yet, in this case, he's criticized the judge's decision to block the subpoena. And that raises a serious question, because you don't get to oppose lawfare selectively. The guy wrote the book, Get Trump, and how stupid it was to go after him once Trump left office in 2020. If it's dangerous when it's used against Trump, it's dangerous when used against Powell. If your standard changes depending on the target, then it's not a legal principle, it's a political one. This is where it becomes bigger than any one person, because this doesn't stop with Trump. It doesn't stop with Powell, and it doesn't stop with Democrats or Republicans. This becomes a cycle. Administration after administration, prosecutor after prosecutor. Ultimately, did it or didn't Biden pardon himself and his family? Each one pushing the line a little further, until eventually the justice system isn't trusted by anybody. I don't care if it's Trump, Powell, James, Comey. If we normalize this, we all lose, because lawfare doesn't fix injustice. It multiplies it. The precedent we set today is one that we're going to live under tomorrow. If you like what you heard, please hit the subscribe button below. Subscribe to my weekly newsletter where I directly give you guys my take, and hopefully have you join the community of nuanced thinkers who aren't afraid of opinion, but in fact, embrace nuance. See you at the next one.